Richard Sterling jolts awake at 3:33 a.m., screaming. He's crying. The same nightmare, for the 87th night in a row. In it, a woman dies in his arms, buried under rubble. A woman he's never seen in real life, but whose face he could draw, with his eyes closed, whose touch he feels on his skin, whose last words in Old Italian he hears perfectly. Richie, you found me too late. Tonight will be different, because at 11 p.m. he's going to see that face, for the first time in 275 years. And it won't be in a dream. Richard is the CEO of a real estate empire. 38 years old, single, successful, impeccably dressed. He has absolute control over everything in his life, except his sleep. For 3 months now, every night, at 3:33 a.m., he wakes up the same way, sweating, crying, calling out a name he doesn't consciously recognize. Eleanor de Medici. He's already seen 2 neurologists. They've done MRIs, CAT scans, blood tests, everything comes back normal. The third doctor, a psychiatrist named Dr. Dante Rossi, suggested something different, hypnotic regression. Richard, a man of reason and numbers, laughed. But he agreed, because the insomnia is destroying his productivity, because the dreams are becoming more vivid, because, for the first time in his life, Richard Sterling is afraid. Have you ever woken up crying without knowing why? Have you ever had the feeling that a dream wasn't just a dream, but a memory of something you lived, but shouldn't remember? Richard is about to discover that his nightmares aren't figments of his imagination. They're echoes from 275 years ago, from a life he lived, from a love he lost, and from a promise that a woman made as she died in his arms. I will find you in every life, no matter who you are. It's Thursday, 11:00 p.m. The corporate building is almost empty. Richard is on the 23rd floor in the main office. He just finished a conference call with Japanese investors. Now he's reviewing contracts. Working late has become routine. He avoids sleeping. The later he goes to bed, the less time he spends trapped in that nightmare. He drinks coffee, a lot of coffee. He glances at the clock. 11:15 p.m. Still 3 hours and 18 minutes before the nightmare starts again. Before he wakes up crying, before he sees that face, that woman, those brown eyes, pleading for help, as life slips away. Eleanor Ellie Morales finishes cleaning the 15th floor, 28 years old, a single mother to a 5-year-old boy. She works from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the cleaning company that services the commercial building. She's never seen the building owner, Richard Sterling, the billionaire CEO, whose face is plastered on business magazines. To her, he's just a name, someone who lives in a completely different world from hers. She wears a navy blue uniform, earns minimum wage, lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with her son. This job is everything she has. She can't lose it. As Ellie pushes her cleaning cart toward the elevator, something strange happens. A sensation, like someone is waiting for her. She stops, looks around. The hallway is empty. Emergency lighting casts long shadows. She shakes her head. Exhaustion. That's all it is. She steps into the elevator, presses the button. For the 23rd floor, it's the last one. Then she can go home, see her son sleeping, get 3 hours of sleep before the alarm clock rings, and she has to drag herself to her second job as a supermarket cashier from 9 to 3. That's her life, constant exhaustion. 2 jobs, no days off, but it's worth it. For her son, for a better future. Richard decides to leave. It's past 11. He has a board meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. He needs at least 2 hours of sleep before the nightmare. He grabs his blazer, his Italian leather briefcase, his cell phone. He walks towards the elevator, presses the button, glances at his Swiss wristwatch. 11:23 p.m. The elevator doors open. He steps inside and freezes. There's a woman in the elevator, a navy blue cleaning uniform, brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She's looking at the floor, exhausted. When she hears someone enter, she looks up, and their eyes meet. Richard feels like someone has kicked him in the chest. He can't breathe. The world disappears. The only thing that exists are those eyes, brown eyes, with tiny flecks of gold. Eyes he sees every night for the last 3 months. Eyes, that stare back at him and as life ebbs away. The eyes of the woman who dies in his arms every night. At 3:33 a.m., it's her, exactly her. The face, the shape of her eyebrows, the small, almost invisible scar on her left eyebrow, the curve of her lips, the eyes, especially the eyes. How is this possible? How is it possible that the woman from his nightmare is here, real, alive, 3 feet away? Ellie sees the man freeze. He's pale, looking at her, like he's seen a ghost. She recognizes his face from the pictures. Richard Sterling, the owner, the CEO, the billionaire. Why is he looking at her like that? She quickly checks her uniform. It's clean. She didn't spill anything. Why is this man trembling? Why are tears welling up in his eyes? Richard tries to speak. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. Ellie doesn't understand. She's scared. Did she do something wrong? Is she going to get fired? She needs this job. She needs it. The elevator doors begin to close. Richard is still standing there, staring. He can't look away. Ellie whispers, nervously, "I'm sorry. Sir, I'm sorry if I did something wrong. Please don't fire me." The doors close completely. The elevator descends. Richard stands alone in the hallway, hands trembling, heart racing. He just saw the woman from his nightmare, real, alive, working in his building. How is this possible? He leans against the wall, takes a deep breath, tries to calm down. He must be hallucinating. The exhaustion, the lack of sleep, he's losing his mind. It has to be that. Because the alternative is impossible. The alternative is that his nightmares aren't nightmares. The alternative is that that woman, those eyes, that death, all of it really happened in another life, 275 years ago. Ellie arrives on the ground floor. She exits the elevator on shaky legs. What just happened? Why did the CEO of the building look at her like he knew her, like he was seeing a ghost? She shakes her head. It doesn't matter. Rich people are weird. She finishes her shift, goes home. But during the bus ride, at 6 a.m., she can't get that look out of her head. That look of recognition, of pain, of longing, like he'd known her for a very long time, as if he'd lost her, and finally found her again. Richard didn't sleep that night, or even try to. He sat in the armchair in his penthouse apartment, staring at the illuminated city through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows. He replayed the scene in the elevator. Her eyes, her face. It was identical. Absolutely identical. At 7 in the morning, he called Dr. Rossi. "Dante, I need an urgent session. Today. Now. Any time you have available." The psychiatrist detected the despair in his voice and scheduled him for 10 o'clock at the office. Richard told him everything. "I saw the woman from my nightmare. She's real. She works in my building as a janitor. I saw her in the elevator and almost fainted. Doctor, am I going insane?" Dr. Rossi jotted down everything, then said, "Richard, I'm going to propose something. Let's do the hypnotic regression today. Right now. You're in a perfect mental state for it. Defenses are down. Mind is opened by the shock. Let's find out once and for all where this dream comes from." Richard agreed. Dr. Rossi prepared a recorder. It was important to document everything. He laid Richard on the couch. Lights were dimmed. A calm, rhythmic voice guided the patient toward an altered state of consciousness. Breathe deeply. Relax. I'm going to count from 10 to 0. With each number, you'll go deeper. 10, 9, 8, 7. You are safe. 6, 5. More and more relaxed. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, Richard, I'm going to ask you to go back. Go back to the origin of this dream, to the moment it all began. Let your mind travel. Don't force it. Just observe what appears. Richard, under hypnosis, remained silent for 30 seconds, then began to speak, but not in his normal voice. The voice was different, younger, with an accent, an Italian accent. My name is Riccardo Vetrari. I am 28 years old. I'm a glassmaker, a glass artisan. I work on Via dei Servi in Florence. The year is 1750. I make glasses, pitchers, mirrors, and necklaces, Venetian glass necklaces for nobles. Dr. Rossi felt a chill down his spine. He pressed on. And this woman from the dream, who is she? Riccardo, or rather, Riccardo Vetrari from 1750 responded, Eleanor de Medici. I've known her since she was 15 years old. She used to visit my workshop with her mother. She would buy glass gifts. She was always kind to me. Unlike the other nobles, she saw me. She treated me as a person, not as a servant. When she turned 20, I was already hopelessly in love. And she with me. Forbidden love. A countess and an artisan. Impossible, but real. Continue, Dr. Rossi said, the recorder capturing every word. We met in secret, at night, in the workshop. She would come down the stone steps from the mansion. She'd cross the narrow streets with a hood covering her face. She would knock on the door 3 times. I would open it. We would spend hours talking. She would tell me about the books she read. I would show her how I blew molten glass into delicate shapes. We made impossible plans. One day I would make a fortune. I would open a workshop in Venice. She would run away with me. We would marry far from Florence, far from the judging eyes of the nobility. We were young, naive. We believed that love was enough. And what happened? Dr. Rossi asked. Riccardo's voice broke. Even under hypnosis, tears streamed down his face. Earthquake. February 18th, 1751. At 3:33 in the afternoon, I was in the workshop. I felt the ground shake. I heard screams. Walls began to crack. I ran out. Florence was collapsing. Buildings falling. People running. Screams everywhere. I could only think of one thing. Eleanor. She was in the mansion. I ran. I ran faster than ever. When I arrived, the de Medici mansion was in ruins. Half the roof had collapsed. I went into the rubble. I shouted her name. Eleanor! Eleanor! Please answer. Riccardo, under hypnosis, was sobbing now. Dr. Rossi considered waking him, but he needed to hear. What happened next? I found her, under a wooden beam, half of her body crushed, blood everywhere. She was still alive, barely. Her eyes were open. She saw me. She whispered, Richie, you found me. You found me too late. I tried to lift the beam. I couldn't. It was too heavy. I asked for help. No one came. Everyone was fleeing or searching for their own loved ones. I held her hand. Eleanor, hold on tight. I'm going to get you out of here. We'll run away. Venice. Remember? We're going to Venice. She smiled. A weak, bloody smile. Richie, in every life, I'll find you. No matter who you are, I'll find you. And then she closed her eyes and died in my arms. The office fell silent. Only Ricardo's sobs under hypnosis could be heard. Doctor, Rossi swallowed hard. And you, Ricardo Vetrari, what happened to you? I stayed 3 days, sitting next to her body, without eating, without drinking, without sleeping, just holding her cold hand. On the 3rd day, my heart stopped. I died of grief. They buried us together. She asked for it in a letter she wrote before she died. She left instructions. If something happens to me, bury me with Ricardo Vetrari, the glassmaker, because I love him, and I want to be next to him in death, since I couldn't be in life. Dr. Rossi woke Richard slowly, counting backward, from 0 to 10. When he reached 10, Richard opened his eyes. He looked around, confused. He felt his wet face. He touched it. Tears. Why am I crying? What happened? Dr. Rossi showed him the recorder. You talked for 40 minutes. You told a complete story. Florence, 1750. You were Ricardo Vetrari. She was Eleanor de Medici. You died in the earthquake. The last thing she said was that she would find you in every life. Richard froze. That's crazy. Reincarnation doesn't exist. Past lives don't exist. I don't believe in it. Dr. Rossi responded calmly. I didn't believe it either, but I'm going to research it. We're going to verify the facts. You mentioned names, dates, specific locations. Via dei Servi, Florence Cathedral. The earthquake of February 18th, 1751 at 3:33 in the afternoon. If you invented everything, these details will be wrong. If you didn't invent it, they will be correct. We'll see each other again in a week. Until then, I'm going to research it. And you, Richard, you're going back to the building. You're going to find that woman. You're going to talk to her. Because if half of what you said under hypnosis is true, she's not just a janitor. She is your soulmate. From 275 years ago. Richard left the office stunned. He took a cab back to his office. It was already past 3 in the afternoon. The building was full of employees. He went straight to human resources. I want a complete list of the employees from the outsourced cleaning company, with photos, now. The HR manager found the request strange, but complied. In 15 minutes, she handed him a folder with files. Richard leafed through them. Second page, where there it was. A passport photo. Eleanor Ellie Morales, 28 years old, night shift, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 6 days a week, address, emergency phone number. He stares at the photos, the same face, the same eyes, the same woman who died in his arms in Florence, the same woman who promised to find him in every life. She kept her promise. She's here, real, alive, cleaning floors. While he, who was a poor artisan, is now a billionaire CEO. The tables have turned, but the souls are the same. Richard feels something he hasn't felt in years, maybe never in this life. Hope. Hope that he's not crazy. Hope that love can actually transcend death, time, lives. He needs to see her again. He needs to talk to her. But how? How to approach her without scaring her? How to say, "Hey, I think you're the reincarnation of an Italian countess who died in my arms 275 years ago, and I've loved you ever since." She'll think he's insane, or worse, that he's using his position of power to harass her. He needs a plan. He needs to take it slow, build trust, show evidence, without pressuring her, without scaring her. If this story is resonating with you, if you feel like some connections can't be explained by logic, if you've ever looked at someone and felt like you knew them for much longer than you should have, then you understand what Richard is feeling, because some promises don't die, some travel through centuries, waiting to be fulfilled. And Richard is about to discover that 275 years of separation can end in seconds. All it takes is a touch, a word, a glance, and two souls will recognize each other. Richard decides to go back to the office at night, to wait until Ellie is working, to find her naturally, to start a conversation, to see her reaction. At 10:30 p.m. he's on the 23rd floor again, reviewing contracts he's already reviewed 3 times, just waiting. At 11:15 p.m. he hears the sound of a cleaning cart in the hallway. His heart pounds. It's her footsteps. He recognizes them. How he recognizes them, he doesn't know. But he does. Ellie enters the office, sees the light on, sees a man sitting at the desk, Richard Sterling, the CEO, the same man who looked at her yesterday as if she were a ghost. She freezes. "Sorry, sir. I didn't know you were here. I'll come back later." Richard stands up. Calm voice. Gentle smile. "No need. Please continue your work. I won't bother you. I'm just finishing up some documents." Zoasis Ellie hesitates, but he's the boss. She complies, starts emptying trash cans, cleaning a side table, sweeping, all in silence. But she feels his eyes, watching, not in a creepy way, but curiously, as if he's studying her, trying to remember something. After 5 minutes, Richard speaks. "Sorry about the scare yesterday. In the elevator. I was tired. Very tired. Didn't mean to frighten you." Ellie relaxes a little. "It's okay, sir. I understand. Working late can be exhausting." Richard smiles. "You can call me Richard. Sir makes me feel old." Ellie smiles back, a small, shy smile. "Okay, Richard." When she says his name, something happens. They both feel it. A subtle electrical current, a shiver, as if that name, spoken by that voice, had been said thousands of times before. In another time. Another place. Ellie shakes her head, confused by the sensation. Richard disguises it, but he feels it too. It's her. He's sure now. It's her. "What's your name?" he asks, even though he already knows the answer. "Eleanor. Eleanor Morales." "Eleanor," he repeats, savoring the name. "It's a beautiful name. Italian." She laughs. "My grandmother was Italian, from Florence. She came here in the 60s. Richard almost drops his pen. "Florence." She said, "Florence." The same city. The same place where Eleanor de Medici died. The pieces are falling into place. Coincidence or destiny. "Florence is beautiful," he comments, trying to keep his voice neutral. "Have you ever visited?" She shakes her head. "No, I've never left this country, but I've always wanted to. My grandmother told stories about cathedrals, bridges, glass-blowing workshops. I've always dreamed of going. Glass-blowing workshops." She said glass-blowing workshops. Richard feels a knot in his throat. How does she know about the glass-blowing workshops of Florence? He needs to take it slow. He can't reveal everything now. It'll scare her. The conversation continues. Superficial. About work. About the city. About the weather. But there's a layer underneath, like something unsaid, as tension, attraction, a recognition that neither of them fully understands. After 20 minutes, Ellie finishes cleaning. "I need to go. Other floors to clean. Good night, Richard." "Good night, Eleanor." When she leaves, Richard realizes that for the first time in 3 months he's not afraid to sleep, because now he knows. She's real. She's alive. And unlike 275 years ago, this time he has a chance to save her. This time they have a chance to be together. But first he needs to find out if she feels the same. If she also has dreams. If she also remembers. Even if it's just in the depths of her soul. Meanwhile, on the bus on the way home, Ellie looks out the window. She can't get Richard out of her head. There's something about him, something familiar, as if she's known him for years, decades, centuries. She shakes her head. She's too tired, imagining things. But when she gets home, when she lies in her narrow bed, when she closes her eyes and she dreams, for the first time in her life, she dreams of Florence, with stone streets, with a glass-blowing workshop, with a 28-year-old man, calloused hands, gentle smile, saying, "Eleanor, one day we'll run away from here. Venice. You and I. Forever." And she wakes up at 3:33 a.m., crying, without knowing why. During the following week, Richard tries to convince himself that he's exaggerating, that coincidences happen, that the human brain looks for patterns where they don't exist. He's a rational man, a successful CEO. He doesn't believe in reincarnation, in past lives, in soulmates traversing centuries. But then, at night, when he sees Eleanor cleaning floors, when he hears her voice, when she smiles, it all crumbles, because he knows, deep down, he knows. It's her. It's always been her. Eleanor is also confused. The dreams continued. Every night. Florence. Earthquake. Rubble. A man looking for her, shouting her name, and she always wakes up at 3:33 a.m., exactly the same time. She researched it online. Earthquake in Florence, February 18th, 1751. It really happened. At 3:33 p.m. How did she know that? Why is she dreaming about it? She's never studied Italian history, never read about earthquakes from the 1700s. How did her mind create such specific details? Friday, a week after their first encounter. Richard is working late again. Not a coincidence. He's waiting for her. 11:00 p.m. Eleanor enters the office. He stands up. "Good evening. How was your week?" Casual conversation. But there's tension, undisclosed attraction. She replies, "It was good. Tiring, but good." "And you?" he says. "Productive, but strange. I had strange dreams." Eleanor freezes. Dreams? What kind of dreams? Richard hesitates. He decides to take a chance. Dreams about Florence, Italy, a long time ago. An earthquake. Strange, because I've never been there. I've never studied that period, but the dreams are so vivid. Eleanor feels a chill. "Florence, an earthquake, me too," she whispers. "I've been dreaming about that too, every night this week. I wake up at 3:33 a.m., always the same time." Richard feels the ground disappear beneath him. "You too?" 3:33. Eleanor nods, her eyes wide. How is that possible? They stare at each other. A heavy silence, full of questions, full of fear, full of recognition. Richard takes a step forward. "Eleanor, can I ask you a strange question?" She nods. "Have you ever felt like you knew me before this week, like we've met before?" Eleanor feels tears forming, without knowing why. "Yes. Ever since I saw you for the first time in the elevator, I felt like I had been waiting to meet you for a long time, much longer than 28 years. Richard takes a deep breath. "Eleanor, I need to show you something, to tell you something. It's going to sound crazy, but I need to." He tells her everything. The nightmares that started 3 months ago, the insomnia, the psychiatrist, the hypnosis, the story he told under trance, Richard Sterling, a glassblower from Florence, Eleanor de Medici, a countess, forbidden love, earthquake, death, a promise. I will find you in every life. Eleanor listens in silence, her heart racing, her hands trembling. When he finishes, she should laugh. She should think it's absurd, but she doesn't, because it makes sense. It explains everything, the dreams, the connection, the feeling of longing for someone she's never met. She whispers, "Do you think we are them reincarnations?" Richard says, "I don't know. Part of me says it's crazy, but another part, the part that sees you and feels like I've finally come home, believes and completely." Eleanor wipes away tears. "I need to go. I need to think. This is too much information." Richard understands. "Please, don't be afraid of me. I don't want to scare you. I just wanted you to know the truth." Eleanor nods. She runs out. But before getting into the elevator, she turns around. "Richard?" He looks. "In my dreams, there's a man looking for me in the rubble, shouting my name. Richie, it's you. I know it's you." The elevator doors close. Richard stands alone. "Richie," she said. "Richie." The nickname. The same one the Countess used back in 1750. How does she know? She's never heard the hypnosis recording. He's never mentioned it. How does she know? The next day, Saturday, Richard has another session with Dr. Rossi. The psychiatrist brings news. "I researched everything you mentioned under hypnosis. Via dei Servi really exists in Florence. There were glass-blowing workshops there in the 1700s. The cathedral was still being built at that time. You were right, and there's more. I found records of the earthquake. February 18th, 1751, 3:33 p.m. Magnitude 5.9, hundreds dead. Among them, he shows a printed paper, a copy of a digitized historical document. Eleanor de Medici, Countess, 24 years old, and Richard Sterling, artisan glassblower, 28 years old. Richard takes the paper with trembling hands. It's all there, black and white. A document from 1751. Their names, side by side, on the list of victims. Dr. Rossi continues. There's a note at the end. It says that the Countess left a written instruction. She asked to be buried with Richard Sterling because she loved him and she wanted to be beside him in death. They were buried together in the crypt of Santa Maria del Fiore, third tomb on the left side, exactly where you said under hypnosis. Richard can't breathe. It's real. It's all real. It wasn't the invention of a tired mind. It wasn't fantasy. It was memory from another life, from 275 years ago. Dr. Rossi says, "Richard, from a scientific point of view, I can't explain this. Reincarnation isn't recognized by traditional psychiatry, but I also can't deny the evidence. You described precise historical details that you had no way of knowing, and now you're telling me you found a woman with the same name, who's also having dreams, who wakes up at the same time. 3:33 a.m., the exact time of the earthquake, only in the morning instead of the afternoon. There's something happening here that goes beyond my understanding. What do I do?" Richard asks. "How do I live with this? How do I wake up every morning knowing that in another life I lost the woman I loved?" Dr. Rossi responds, "You do what she asked. You find her. You fulfill your promise. This time, you have a chance. Unlike in 1751, there's no earthquake. There's no rubble. You're alive, together, in the same city, in the same building. Don't let fear or logic stop you. If this is real, and all the evidence points to it, then you have a mission, to finish what started 275 years ago." Richard leaves the office resolved. He's going to find Eleanor. He's going to talk to her. He's going to show her the documents. He's going to make her believe, because if there's such a thing as destiny, If there's a promise spanning lifetimes, then he can't waste it. Not this time. What would you do if you discovered that in another life you loved someone, that you died for that someone, that you made a promise to meet again, and then, centuries later, you saw that person in front of you, real, alive, with another name, but the same soul? Would you have the courage to risk it, to believe in the impossible? Richard is about to discover if courage is enough, because loving across time is one thing, proving that love is real is something entirely different. Monday. Richard waits at the entrance of the building, 6 a.m., the time Eleanor finishes her shift. When she comes out, tired, her uniform crumpled, her hair a mess, he's there. Eleanor, I need to talk to you, please. 5 minutes. She looks around. Other employees passing by. She doesn't want to cause a scene. All right. 5 minutes. They walk to a coffee shop nearby. A 24-hour diner. They sit in a booth in the back. Richard takes an envelope from his briefcase. Inside, copies of the documents, the earthquake record, the list of victims, the notes about the request for burial. He spreads them on the table. Eleanor looks, reads, her eyes widening with each line. When she finishes, she's trembling. Is this real? Are these documents real? Richard nods. Dr. Rossi verified them. Digitized historical archives. Museum of Florence. All authenticated. We're there, Eleanor. You and me. 275 years ago. Eleanor picks up the paper where it's written, buried together at her request, who loved him. Tears fall. How is this possible? Reincarnation. Soulmates. This doesn't make sense. Richard takes her hand. When their fingers touch, they both feel it. An electric shock. Warmth. Deep recognition. As if that touch had happened millions of times, in millions of lives. Eleanor doesn't pull her hand away. She looks at Richard. She whispers, "In my dreams you die. 3 days after I die, Ban, of a broken heart, because he can't live without me. Is it true? Is that what happened?" Richard, his voice thick with emotion, "Yes. I stayed by your side. 3 days. Without eating. Without sleeping. Just holding your hand. And then, my heart stopped. I didn't want to live without you." Eleanor is crying openly now. "And you think this repeats? That we're trapped in a cycle? That we'll meet and lose each other again?" Richard squeezes her hand. "I don't know. But I know one thing. This time, there's no earthquake, no rubble, no death separating us. This time, we have a choice. And I choose to find you. I choose to believe. I choose to risk it, even if it seems like madness." Eleanor looks at the documents, at the man in front of her, at their intertwined hands. She feels the truth, deep in her soul. She knows. She always knew. Ever since she saw him in the elevator. This isn't our first life. It's not our first meeting. It's a new beginning. A second chance. Maybe our last chance in Ancheke, and she can't waste it. Okay, I believe you. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I believe you. We are them. And somehow, against all odds, we found each other again. Richard smiles. The first genuine smile in months. Eleanor, can I see you again? Not as boss and employee, but as two people, trying to understand something impossible. Together? She nods. Yes. I'd like that. They make plans for Wednesday, her day off, dinner, somewhere simple, no pressure, just conversation. discovery. When they say goodbye on the sidewalk, Richard does something impulsive. He kisses her forehead, gently, chaste, but the moment touches something deep inside her. Eleanor closes her eyes. She feels a déjà vu so strong. It almost makes her faint. This has happened before. Exactly like this. Him kissing her forehead, under the stars, on a summer night, in Florence, before the earthquake, before the tragedy. When they still believed that love was enough to conquer the world, she opens her eyes, looks at Richard, and whispers in Italian, a language she never consciously learned, Ti ho sempre amato. I have always loved you. Always. Richard freezes. She spoke in Italian, perfect Italian, an ancient Tuscan dialect. How does she know that? Eleanor realizes what she said, covers her mouth with her hand. I don't know Italian. How did I say that? How did I know that? Richard embraces her, because part of you remembers, part of you never forgot, just like me. They stand there, embraced in the middle of the sidewalk, at 6:30 in the morning, while the city awakens. Two souls who were lost for centuries, finally finding each other again, and promising, silently, that this time, they won't let anything separate them. Not social class, not skepticism, not fear. Because a love that survives 275 years isn't ordinary love. It's destiny. It's a promise. It's a soul recognizing another soul. Finally, home. Sometimes, the impossible happens right in front of you, and you have a choice. You can run, call it madness, or you can accept it, embrace it. Believe that some connections go beyond logic, beyond science, beyond death. Richard and Eleanor chose to believe. And what happened next changed everything. Wednesday night, Richard picks up Eleanor at her apartment. A small, modest, simple neighborhood. A stark contrast to his luxury penthouse. But it doesn't matter. None of it matters when two souls recognize each other. They go to a small Italian restaurant. Ironically, specializing in Tuscan cuisine, she's nervous, yeah. She's never dated a man like him. Rich, powerful, from another world. But when they sit down and start talking, the nervousness disappears because they don't seem like strangers. They seem like old friends, ancient lovers, reconnecting after a long separation. During dinner, they talk about their present lives. She tells him about her 5-year-old son, Michael. His father disappeared when he found out she was pregnant. She works 2 jobs to support him. It's hard, exhausting, but worth every second. Richard talks about his life, financial success that brought no happiness, superficial relationships, a constant feeling that something is missing, someone. Now he knows who. Dessert arrives, tiramisu. When they taste it, something strange happens. Eleanor closes her eyes. The taste triggers a memory, not from this life, from another. She sees a quick flash, an old kitchen, a wood-burning stove, a woman preparing a dessert, herself, younger, dressed in period clothing, her hair pulled back in an elaborate bun, laughing, waiting for someone. Him, Richard, a poor craftsman who comes to visit her at night. She prepared a special dessert, a surprise. When he tastes it, his eyes light up. It's perfect. Countess, like you. She blinks. The vision disappears. She's back in the restaurant. Richard is looking at her. You saw it too, he whispers. She nods. I saw it. Us. In an old kitchen. You tasted something I made, called it perfect. Richard takes a deep breath. It's happening. The memories are returning. for both of us. Dr. Rossi warned me. When two souls reunite, memories can resurface, especially if the connection was strong. And their connection, 275 years ago, was stronger than death. After dinner, they walk through the park. Warm night, but full moon. Stars visible despite the light pollution. Eleanor stops near a fountain, looks at the water. Richard approaches her. She's trembling. "Are you okay?" She shakes her head. "I'm afraid. Afraid that this is a dream. Afraid I'll wake up and find out that you're not real." Richard takes her hand. He feels a familiar warmth. "I'm real. This is real. Look at me." She turns, eyes to eyes. Something changes. The air becomes heavy, charged, like before a storm. Neither of them blinks. They just stare at each other. And then it happens. A vision. Not a quick flash. A complete vision. Shared. Both of them see it at the same time. Florence. 1750. Night. She descends the stone steps of the mansion, a dark cloak hiding her rich dress. She crosses the narrow streets, knocks on a wooden door 3 times. He opens it, his face lit by candlelight, a wide smile. She enters, a workshop full of colored glass, reflections of light dancing on the walls. He kisses her, gently, then passionately, whispered promises. "One day, my countess, we'll be free. Venice, far from here, just the two of us." She smiles against his lips. "You promise?" He promises. "With my life." The scene changes. An earthquake, the ground shaking, walls cracking, screams, chaos. He's running through the streets, shouting her name. "Eleanor, Eleanor." He finds the mansion in ruin. He enters the rubble, fallen wood, broken stones, blood, so much blood. And then he sees her body, under a beam, her eyes open, still alive, just barely. He falls to his knees. He holds her hand, tries to lift the beam. He can't. It's too heavy. She whispers, "Richie, you came. I always would, in every life. I promise, I will find you, no matter who you are." Her lips turn blue. Her breathing stops. Her eyes close. He screams, "No, Eleanor, don't leave me." He stays with her bodyway 3 days, without eating, without drinking, just crying. On the 4th day, his heart stops. He dies next to her, united in death. The vision ends. Richard and Eleanor are on the ground, kneeling, next to the fountain, crying. Their hands intertwined so tightly that their bones ache. They lost track of time, minutes, hours. When they finally looked at each other again, they knew. There was no more doubt, no more skepticism. They had seen, felt, lived it all again. 275 years vanished, as if it were yesterday. The pain, the love, the promise. Eleanor whispered, her voice breaking, "You stayed with me for 3 days, until I died, because you loved me so much. You couldn't go on without me." Richard, tears streaming down his face. "And you promised, with your last words. You said you would find me. And you did. You're here, alive, real." They embraced, right there, in the middle of the park. 2 strangers walking by gave them strange looks. They didn't understand. They couldn't understand that this embrace held 275 years of longing, that those tears were of loss and reunion, that those souls in you finally were complete again. When they pulled apart, Eleanor noticed something. She was humming, a melody she didn't know. Or did she? She stopped, looked at Richard. What is that? Why am I singing that? Richard recognized the melody. He froze. Ellie, that song. Sing it again, louder. She sang. Words flowed effortlessly. In Italian, a dialect she shouldn't know. Dormi, dormi, bel bambin. Sleep, asleep, beautiful baby. An old Italian lullaby from the 1700s. A perfect Tuscan accent, pronunciation that would take years to learn. But she had never studied it, never heard it. How did she know? Richard was pale. Eleanor, that song, in my dream. You sang it to me, in the workshop, after we made love. You said your mother sang it to you when you were a child. It's a Tuscan lullaby from the 18th century. How do you know it? Eleanor covered her mouth. I don't know. It just came out, as if I always knew it, as if a part of me remembered. She sang it again, this time. Tears streamed down her face, because she remembered, not consciously, but her soul remembered, of nights in the workshop, of stained glass, of whispered promises, of a love that defied social classes, and of a tragic end that should never have happened. They drove back to Richard's car in silence, processing. When they arrived at her two-bedroom apartment, he parked, looked at her. Ellie, I know it's early. I know we've only just met in this life, but I need to say it. I love you. I've always loved you, for 275 years, and I will continue loving you, no matter what happens. Eleanor smiled. Tears and joy mixed. I do too. Ever since I saw you in the elevator. Since before that. Since always. I love you, Richard, Richie, my craftsman, my love of all lifetimes. They kissed, the first kiss of this life, but the 1000th kiss, through time. And when their lips touched, they felt it, completeness, belonging, as if a missing piece finally fit, as if the emptiness they had carried for 275 years was finally filled. The next few days were intense. Richard and Eleanor spent all their free time together, discovering each other again. She introduced him to Michael. The 5-year-old boy adored Richard instantly. He called him Uncle Richie. Richard taught him about building with blocks. He played hide and seek. He felt something he had never felt before, the desire to be a father, to have a family, with her, with Eleanor, the woman he had loved 3 lifetimes ago, or 10, or 100. Who knew how many times their souls had crossed paths throughout history? But not everything was perfect. There were difficulties. The class difference created tension. Richard's friends didn't understand. Why was a billionaire CEO dating a cleaning lady? Eleanor felt judgmental stares. When she went to dinner at an expensive restaurant with Richard, the waiters treated her with disdain until they realized she was with him. Then they feigned respect. But she felt it. The falseness, the prejudice. Part of her wanted to give up, to go back to her world, where she belonged. But then she remembered, in 1750, the situation was reversed. She was noble, he was poor, and they loved each other anyway. Their love transcended social class then. It could transcend it now too. Richard also faced pressure. The board of directors questioned his judgment. He was distracted, arriving late, leaving early. Productivity was falling. Investors were worried. But he didn't care. For the first time in his life, there was something more important than money, more important than power, more important than success. There was love. There was a soulmate. There was a promise from 275 years ago, finally being fulfilled. One night, 3 weeks after their first encounter, Richard took Eleanor to a special place, an art gallery, a temporary exhibition. Italian art from the 18th century, imported from Florence. When they entered, Eleanor stopped in front of a specific painting, a large painting, depicting a street in Florence, Via dei Servi, a glass workshop. The year 1749, 2 years before the earthquake. There was a figure in the doorway, a young man, calloused hands, holding a piece of blue glass, looking at someone outside the painting, waiting. Eleanor gasped. "Richard, look, it's you. The man in the painting. It's you. In 1749. Richard approached. He read the descriptive plaque. Via dei Servi, Florence, 1749. Artist unknown. Glassblower's workshop. He looked at the figure. His heart raced. It was impossible. But the face, the posture, even the small scar on his left hand, the same one he had since birth, a burn mark. In the painting, the man had an identical scar, in the same place, as if he had burned himself working with molten glass. They sought out the exhibition curator. They asked about the painting. The curator explained. It came from a private collection, an Italian family, descendants of the nobility of Florence. There was documentation, a list of the people portrayed. He showed them a catalogue. Richard flipped through it. He stopped on a page, a photocopy of an old document, a list of paintings in the collection. One entry read, "Portrait of Richard Sterling, glassblower of Via dei Servi, painted by order of Countess Eleanor de' Medici, 1749. Eleanor read over his shoulder. "I commissioned that painting, of you, 2 years before the earthquake, because I wanted to have something of yours, in case something happened, in case they separated us. I wanted to remember your face, forever." Tears fell. Richard hugged her. They stood there, in front of the portrait from 1749, physical proof, irrefutable, that their love existed, that they were real, that a promise was made. And now, 275 years later, it was being fulfilled. If you haven't felt goosebumps by now, check your pulse, because this story shouldn't be possible. Two people meeting by chance, discovering that in another life they were lovers, that they died together, that they promised to meet again, and then finding a painting, a historical document, proof that it was all real. If that doesn't move you, nothing will. That night, after the gallery, Richard and Eleanor went to her 2-bedroom apartment. Michael was sleeping at the neighbor's house. They had privacy. They sat on the small sofa. They drank cheap wine, but the taste didn't matter. The company mattered. A comfortable silence, until Eleanor spoke. "Richard, I need to tell you something. I'm scared." "Scared of what?" Richard asks, his voice laced with concern. "Of losing you again." Eleanor's voice trembles. "In my dreams, it's not just the past. Sometimes, I dream of the future, of something terrible happening, of you searching for me, Vaz, and not finding me, of a tragic end, all over again. It's like fate is trying to tear us apart, Richard, just like in 1751. Richard gently cups her face in his hands. He looks deep into her eyes. He listens. really listens. This time is different, Ellie. There's no earthquake. There's no nobility standing in our way. We are alive, we are together, we are free to choose. And I choose you, Ellie. I will always choose you. In every life, in every moment. Nothing will separate us. I promise you that. Eleanor desperately wants to believe him, but the fear, it persists because deep down in her soul, she knows that some promises are tested. That fate sometimes demands a price. That love across time doesn't come without challenges. And the greatest challenge one is still yet to come. But in that moment, that night, wrapped safe in his arms, she chooses to believe. She chooses to trust. She chooses to love, even with the fear, even with the uncertainty. Because a love that has survived 275 years is worth any risk. They make love for the first time, love is in this life, but the 100th time across all their lives. And as their bodies unite, their souls recognize each other completely. Memories explode, not just from 1751, but from other lives, other eras, always finding each other, always loving each other, always being separated by tragedy, but always promising to return, and always fulfilling that promise, life after life, century after century, and until this one, until now, until they finally have a chance to be together, without death, without separation, only love, eternal love, love that transcends time, love that is destiny. 1 month after their first encounter, Richard and Eleanor are more connected than ever. He cuts back on his work hours. He spends more time with her and with Miguel. They are building a life together, slowly but surely. But then, the dreams change. It's no longer the past. It's the future. A premonition, gripping and cold. Richard wakes up at 3:33 in the morning, sweating, crying. But this time, it's not Florence. It's a modern city. Night, a dark, desolate street. Eleanor walking alone. 2 men approaching. Knives, gleaming. She screams. Richard runs, but he can't get there in time. She falls, blood staining the pavement, his eyes closing in despair, and he wakes up, screaming her name. Eleanor. Eleanor. It happens 3 nights in a row, the same dream, the same scene, always ending with her on the ground, always ending with him arriving too late. On the 4th day, he calls Eleanor. I need to see you, now, please. She can hear the urgency and the panic in his voice. Okay, I'm just leaving work. Can we meet up? They meet at a coffee shop downtown. Richard tells her about the dreams. Eleanor, promise me something. Don't walk alone at night, ever. Always take a taxi, or call me. I'll come get you, always. She sees real fear in his eyes. Okay, Richard, I promise. But they were just dreams, Richard. It's not like before. It's not a premonition. He wants to believe her, but he feels, deep down, that fate hasn't finished with them yet, that there is a final test, an ultimate challenge, and he has to be ready. Meanwhile, Dr. Rossi continues his research. He's become obsessed with the case. You're too patient, with shared memories of a past life, historical evidence, proving everything. It's a scientific breakthrough, an article for a medical journal. But more than that, it's a mystery that challenges everything he thought he knew about consciousness, the mind, the soul. He decides to seek out the last piece of evidence. He travels to Florence. He goes to the Basilica di Santa Maria del Fiore, the crypt, the 3rd tomb on the left, exactly where Richard described under hypnosis. And there it is, an ancient headstone, worn by time, but the inscription still legible. Here lies Countess Eleanor de Medici, 24 years, and Richard Sterling, artisan, 28 years, buried together at her request, May they be united in every life. Doctor. Rossi photographs it, documents it, and then he sees something he didn't expect. At the base of the tomb, a small glass box, protected. Inside, a necklace, Venetian blue glass, still intact, after 275 years. The necklace Richard made for Eleanor, the necklace she wore when she died, the necklace mentioned in the historical records, the final proof, physical, irrefutable. Dr. Rossi contacts Richard. He sends him the photos. Richard almost faints when he sees them, Eleanor too. They are staring at their tomb from another life, at the necklace he made with his own hands, that she wore when she died, that has traveled through centuries, waiting, like a promise, like a witness, like proof that their love was real, is real, will always be real. This story shouldn't exist, but from a rational, logical, and scientific point of view, it's impossible, but it does. It's happening. Two people found each other, recognized each other's souls, discovered a love that transcends lives, and found proof. Documents, paintings, a tomb, a necklace, all real, all verifiable. If you've made it this far, if this story has touched you in any way, know that you are being a part of something bigger. You're witnessing a love that defies death, time, logic, and maybe, just maybe, this will make you question everything you think you know about life, death, and what comes after. Friday, 3 weeks after the discovery of the tomb, Eleanor is working an extra shift. She needs the money for Miguel's school supplies. She finishes at 2 in the morning. Later than usual, she leaves the building. The street is dark, empty. She reaches for her cell phone to call a taxi. Dead battery. She forgot to charge it. She looks around. Taxi stand. 3 blocks away. She decides to walk. Quickly, head down. It's a big city. Night, a woman alone. She knows the risks. But it's only 3 blocks. She'll be okay. 2 blocks later, she hears footsteps behind her. She speeds up. The footsteps speed up too. Her heart races. She doesn't look back. She just keeps going, faster, almost running. She turns a corner, dead end, a blind alley, mistake. She tried to take a shortcut. She turns around. 2 men are blocking her exit, knives in their hands. "The bag, now!" She hands it over, trembling. "It's okay. Take it. Just don't hurt me. I have a son. Please." But they don't leave. They stare at her. Predatory grins. Maybe the bag isn't enough. Maybe they want more. Meanwhile, Richard wakes up. 3:33 in the morning. Exactly. The dream again. But this time it more vivid, more real. He sees the street. He recognizes it. 3 blocks from her building. He sees Eleanor. He sees the men. He sees the knives. And he knows. It's not just a dream. It's now. It's happening right now. He leaps out of bed. He throws on pants. Doesn't even button them. Grabs his car keys, his cell phone. He calls Eleanor as he races to the garage. No answer. He calls again. Nothing. Total panic. He jumps into his car. He peels out at a dangerous speed. Empty streets. Dead of night. Red lights ignored. He needs to get there. He needs to get there in time. He cannot lose her again. Not after 275 years. Not when he's finally found her. In the alley, the situation is worsening. One of the men approaches. Eleanor backs away. Her back is against the wall. There's no escape. She closes her eyes. She thinks of Miguel, the son she will never see again, of Richard, the love she finally found, and will lose. Again. Fate always demands a price, always separates, always destroys. Just like in Florence, just like in all those other lives. Always tragedy, always loss, and she whispers, "Richie, forgive me. I tried to stay, but fate is stronger." Then she hears it. Tires screeching. A car slams to a halt. A door bangs open, footsteps rushing, a voice shouting, "Ellie, where are you?" Ellie! She recognizes the voice. Impossible. How did he know? How is he here? Richie, here, in the alley! She screams with every ounce of strength she has. Richard rounds the corner. He sees the scene. 2 men, Ellie cornered, knives exactly like the dream. But this time when he's here, this time he can change it. He runs, not thinking, just acting. He throws himself between Ellie and the men, shielding her with his own body. Get out of here now, or I'm calling the cops. The men hesitate. Glancing at the big, determined man, they decide it's not worth the risk. They flee, taking only her purse. Richard turns. Ellie is trembling, crying. He embraces her, tightly. Are you okay? Are you hurt? She shakes her head, unable to speak, just sobs. He cups her face, looks into her eyes. I told you, nothing will tear us apart. I promised. And unlike 1751, this time, I got here in time. This time, I saved you. This time, we changed fate. Ellie finally speaks. How did you know? How were you here? I dreamed it. I woke up at 3:33. I saw everything. I knew it was happening. I knew where you were, but I don't know how. But I knew, Gusser, and I came running. Because losing you once was enough. I won't let it happen again. Never again. They stand embraced in the alley, while the city sleeps as while destiny recedes. Because for the first time in 275 years, the ending has changed. Tragedy averted. Death denied. Love prevailed. Not because it was easy, but because they both chose to fight. They chose to believe. They chose to ensure that a promise made centuries ago would finally be kept. Completely. Without loss. Without separation. Just love. Love that transcends lives. Love that changes fate. Love that is eternal. 6 months later, Richard and Ellie are in Tuscany, Italy, on their honeymoon. They got married a week ago. Simple ceremony. Michael as the ring bearer, Dr. Rossi as the witness. Few friends, but much love. Now they're in Florence, the city where it all began, 275 years ago. They visit Via dei Servi. The street still exists. The glass workshop doesn't. Now it's a coffee shop. But the structure is the same. Stone walls and wooden door. They go inside, order coffee, sit where the workshop used to be, where he worked with glass, where she visited in secret, where they fell in love, where they made a promise to flee to Venice, a promise never fulfilled. Until now. After coffee, they walk to Santa Maria del Fiore, the cathedral, the crypt, third tomb on the left side. There they are, Eleanor de Medici, Richard Sterling, 275 years sleeping side by side, waiting. Ellie places flowers, white roses. Thank you, she whispers, for waiting, for promising, for fulfilling. Thank you for finding me. In every life, always. Richard kneels, touches the headstone, and whispers the words that Eleanor died hearing centuries ago. I found you. I found you. And I will never let you go again, I promise, with my life, with my soul, with every breath I have. You are mine, in every life, forever. They leave the crypt, hand in hand, the sun shining, the city alive. Unlike 1751, no earthquake, no tragedy, no death, just life, love, future, together. Finally, after waiting 275 years, after losing and finding each other again, after fighting fate and winning, they have their chance. A chance to live the love they always deserved. A love that transcends time. A love that is destiny. A love that is eternal. Some connections cannot be explained. You look at someone and feel like you've known them longer than you should have. You touch them and feel a shock that goes beyond electric. You love them and feel like you've loved them before. 1,000 times, well, in 1,000 lives. And maybe you have, Maybe souls really do find each other through lives. Maybe promises really do survive death. Maybe love really is eternal. Richard and Ellie discovered that it is, and it changed everything. Today, 3 years later, they live in Florence. Richard opened a glass workshop, small artisan, called Eleanor de Medici, a tribute to the past. Ellie went back to school, history, specializing in 18th century Florence. She works as a tour guide, telling the love story between a countess and an artisan, a story that no one else knows, except her, because she lived it. Michael, now 8 years old, is learning Italian, playing in the same streets where Ellie's great-grandmother grew up, where his parents' souls met for the first time. There's a baby on the way, a girl. They're going to name her Francesca, an Italian name, a continuation of the legacy. Every night, before falling asleep, Richard and Ellie lie down, hands intertwined, and whisper, "In every life, in every life, in every breath, in every heartbeat, I will find you, I will love you, I will choose you, always." 275 years separated, but an eternity together ahead, because some promises never die. They just wait, patiently, through centuries, through lives, until the right moment, until the right people, until love finally wins, as it always should. And you, have you ever looked at someone and felt a connection you can't explain? Have you ever loved someone you feel like you've known longer than you've known them? Have you ever promised something you know deep down in your soul that you will fulfill? No matter how long it takes, no matter how many lives, how? Because if you have, then you understand. You understand Richard and Ellie. You understand that true love knows no limits, knows no death, knows no time. It only knows a promise and fulfillment, life after life, until it is complete, until it is home, until you finally rest, knowing that this time, this life, there will be no separation, just love, forever. 3:33. It's no longer the hour of nightmares, it's the hour of gratitude. Every morning, when the clock strikes 3:33, Richard wakes up, not screaming, not crying, but smiling. He looks at Ellie sleeping beside him, touches her face gently, whispers, "Thank you," to the universe, to destiny, to the promise fulfilled, and goes back to sleep, in peace, for the first time in 275 years, finally, at peace.